The summer I turned 13 was the best summer of my life. I'm nearing 30 now, but I still look back at that summer often. I've always been a fan of movies, even from as far back as I could comprehend what a movie is. Oftentimes, I would watch movies that were more advanced for my age. Till this day, the T-1000 still sends a shiver down my spine. I was an only child, so movies were my siblings, friends, and sometimes parents. My parents worked all the time, and by the time I turned 13, they worked so much that they couldn't watch me while I was on break from school. First, I was excited because there was a small convenience store by my house. So that meant unlimited snacks to go along with my movies. Ho-Ho's and Harry Potter, ice cream and Indiana Jones, Pop Rocks and Rocky. I could not wait for the last week of May. I pretended to be bummed out by the news, but inside I was happy. I think my acting was a little too good, because the next day during breakfast, my parents hit me with the news. They said, "Son, we thought about it, and we really think it would be best if you didn't spend the summer alone." "Are you quitting one of your jobs?" I asked, knowing the answer already. "No, you're going to be spending the summer at your grandparents' house." My face dropped. My parents, sensing my disappointment, quickly responded, "It's only during the week. You're spending the weekends with us. We will make time together as a family." My heart sank, but I smiled and continued to eat my frosted flakes. You see, it's not that I disliked my grandparents. In fact, I hardly even knew them. Sure, I saw them at the usual holiday get-togethers like Thanksgiving and Christmas, but I honestly couldn't remember a time being alone in the room with them, having a one-on-one conversation. In fact, I couldn't even name a fact about them, other than the fact that they were my grandparents, of course. On the last day of school, my teacher went around the class and asked everybody what their plans were for summer break. Many children said camping, Six Flags, Great America, Wisconsin Dells. One kid even said he was volunteering to clean up the side of the highway. The whole class laughed. When it got to me, I quietly said spending the summer with my two elderly grandparents. The class remained silent. I could feel my face growing hot. Suddenly, cleaning up a highway didn't sound so bad. The night before I was set to be shipped off, my parents bought pizza for dinner. My parents weren't super strict when it came to what I ate, but still, pizza on a random night of the week was a little odd. I usually only ate pizza at bowling alleys or birthday parties. I could tell my parents were still feeling guilty about sending me away for the summer. So a pepperoni pie was their way of making everything all right. As I dipped my pizza crust in marinara sauce, the only way I was going to finish that stuff, I vaguely listened to my parents' conversation. Something about Mr. Johnson parking in front of our house, even though his parking spot is completely empty. I guess my parents sensed my disassociation because they offered to play Uno as a family after dinner. Now, Uno is my favorite game, mainly because it's the only game I'm good at. I know it's mostly up to luck, but every time I played, luck was on my side, and I yelled out Uno more than anyone. "Not tonight, I'm kind of tired," I lied. "Okay," said my mom, "just make sure you have your bags packed. We leave for your grandparents at 7 a.m. sharp." I wished my parents a good night and went off to my room to enjoy one last night in my own bed. I woke up early the next morning, but to be honest, I didn't sleep much. I kept waking up to go to the bathroom every couple of hours. I have nights like this once every blue moon, and the doctor chalked it up to nerves. Whatever the reason, all I know is I got very little sleep, but surprisingly, I wasn't that tired. I went down to breakfast, expecting my usual bowl of frosted flakes, but to my surprise, my mom made a full breakfast. Pancakes, eggs, hash browns, sausage, bacon, biscuits, and orange juice. My mom only ever liked this on Christmas, or if one of my pets died. I looked outside, it wasn't snowing. I ran to the living room. Barry was still swimming in his tank. I walked back to the kitchen and started making my plate. No matter how things went the rest of the day, at least I would have a stomach full of syrup to keep myself occupied. I arrived at my grandparents' house at 7:22. My parents decided it would be best to go as a family, but to me it felt like a weird vacation. Only I was going to be left behind at a gas station on the side of the highway. "Okay, honey, I'm running late to work, so I can't walk you in. But your grandparents are expecting you. The door is unlocked. Just walk inside." I gave one last look at my father. "Have fun, champ. Well, see you this weekend." My parents pulled off before I even made it up the stairs. I slowly made my way up the stairs and put my hand on the doorknob. Before I twisted the knob, I gave the block a look over. All the houses looked the same. Sure, they were different colors, but they all had the same structure. I bet there aren't even kids that live on this block, I thought to myself. It was going to be a long summer. I walked inside the house, and the first thing that hit me was the smell. Not a bad smell, just different. It smelled like old books, lavender, and something tasty cooking in the kitchen. The house was quiet, but not in a creepy way. It felt peaceful, like a library. I set my bag down in the entryway and took a hesitant step forward. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing slightly. I heard footsteps shuffle from the kitchen, and then my grandmother appeared, wiping her hands on a checkered apron. She was shorter than I remembered, with a head full of white curls and glasses that sat too low on her nose. "Oh, you're here! Welcome, welcome!" She hurried over and gave me a hug that smelled like flour and vanilla extract. "Come in, come in!" "Grandpa's out back working on the garden, but he'll be in soon. Are you hungry?" Before I could answer, she led me to the kitchen table, where a plate of cookies and a tall glass of milk waited for me. I had to admit the cookies looked good, chocolate chip and peanut butter still warm. I took one, and as soon as I bit into it, I knew, if anything else, the food would be a highlight of the summer. After I finished my snack, Grandma gave me a quick tour of the house. It was bigger than it looked from the outside, with walls lined with shelves full of books, plants, and photographs. My room was upstairs, small but cozy, with a window that overlooked the backyard garden. I began unpacking my bag. I didn't even have to use the bathroom all afternoon. Later that afternoon, Grandpa came in, wiping sweat from his brow and carrying a basket full of tomatoes. He was taller than Grandma, with a head full of gray hair, a small goatee, and a voice that rumbled like a character from an old black and white film. He gave me a nod and a grin. "Your mother tells me you're some sort of movie buff," he said. "Hope you like westerns." I wasn't sure how to respond, so I just nodded. That night, after dinner, Grandpa pulled out an old VHS tape of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I had never seen a western before, but by the end I was hooked. Grandpa knew every line and hummed along to the theme song. It was the first time I saw someone as excited while watching a movie as I usually get, and it made me feel happy. The next few days passed in a blur. I helped Grandma bake pies, picked vegetables with Grandpa, and even started reading one of the old books from their shelves, The Tale of Two Cities. I found myself looking forward to our movie nights, where Grandpa showed me everything from John Wayne classics to Clint Eastwood thrillers. One evening, during a particularly dramatic shootout scene, Grandpa paused the movie and looked at me seriously. "You know," he said, "movies are a lot like life. There's good movies and there are bad movies. Just remember to appreciate the bad movies because it makes the good movies extra special." I didn't really understand what he meant, but I nodded anyway. By the end of the first week, I realized I hadn't thought about my parents once. In fact, I hadn't thought about anything the whole week. Not my parents, not my friends, not even the kids cleaning up the highway. My grandparents weren't the people I thought they'd be. They had a youthful spirit running through them, a spirit that I believe runs through everyone no matter how old you get. When Friday came and my parents pulled up in the driveway, I felt a wave of sadness. I packed my bag and hugged my grandparents goodbye. "See you on Monday," I said. "Here, take these cookies for the road," said my grandmother. My grandfather hugged me and said, "Next time you come, I'm going to introduce you to my good friend Martin Scorsese." I laughed and gave them one last look as I walked out the door. That summer turned out to be the best one of my life. It wasn't because of cookies or movie marathons, but because I got to know two people I never realized I needed. My grandparents became my friends, my mentors, and in a way I felt like we were making our own movie every time I visited. Looking back now at 30, I still remember that summer vividly. It was the summer I learned how to slow down and look at things from a different perspective. Everything is a story, you just have to pay attention closely.